They've lied to you. They've caused you pain and then laughed as if nothing happened. As if your silence means agreement. As if your patience signals weakness. But deep down, you know the truth. They haven't changed. They're just used to you staying quiet. For too long. You may have thought strength meant forgiving endlessly. Being the bigger person, you've tried to understand. To keep the peace. To give second chances. But here's the Stoic truth. Compassion without consequences isn't kindness, it's surrender. Some people don't grow through kindness. They grow through distance. They learn from facing their actions. If they never confront their mistakes, they'll keep hurting you and others. This isn't about revenge. It's about clarity, boundaries, and dignity. In this video, we'll explore 5 Stoic reasons why you must hold others accountable for their choices without guilt, without anger, without looking back. Because peace doesn't come from fixing others. It comes from choosing yourself. You've seen this before. They've lied to your face, broken your trust, wounded your spirit, then offered half-hearted apologies with forced smiles, acting like everything's fine. But the truth is, if someone only apologizes after being caught, that's not remorse. That's image control. True regret doesn't need a reminder. They don't push back against your silence. They don't pressure you to heal on their timeline. They don't see your boundaries as an inconvenience. They accept the discomfort. They know forgiveness doesn't mean permission. They understand regret doesn't grant them a free pass to return. Yet, we live in a world obsessed with quick forgiveness, social media, self-help gurus, and advice. Columns all preach, let it go. Be the bigger person. Don't hold grudges. But Stoicism doesn't ask you to hate. It asks you to see clearly, to know the vast difference between inner peace and reopening the door to someone who hasn't changed. Let's be honest. When you forgive someone who isn't sorry, who doesn't reflect, who hasn't earned a second chance, you're not healing. You're erasing yourself. Worse, every time you excuse the unforgivable, you teach them a dangerous lesson. I can do it again. They're not cartoon villains, but their actions work because they get results. Why would they change if betrayal still opens doors? If manipulation still earns sympathy? If apologies reset everything? They have no reason to grow. Understand this. Forgiveness is noble. It frees you from the poison of resentment. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconnection. Because reconnecting without change isn't healing, it's betraying yourself. And when they ask, "Why are you so cold?" I said, "Sorry. Can't we move on?" That's your reminder. Trust, once broken, isn't restored by a request. It's rebuilt brick by painful brick. Or it's accepted as lost. Here's the Stoic response: no yelling, no drama. Just quiet clarity. You lied to me. I don't trust you anymore. You disrespected me. I need space. You crossed a line. I'm setting a boundary. You don't owe them a debate. You don't owe them closure. You owe yourself peace. You set consequences not to hurt them, but to protect yourself. Let them think you're heartless. Let them call you dramatic. Let them say you can't forgive. That's okay. Only those who freely hurt you will feel stung by your boundaries. Judge them not by apologies but by habits. Words are easy. A tear can be rehearsed. An apology can be perfectly timed. But what never lies patterns of behavior. It's not a single mistake that defines someone. It's the repeated actions, They never change. No matter how many chances you give, be real. You have a friend who always forgets your birthday but expects gifts and attention for theirs. There's a sibling who makes humiliating jokes at every family gathering, then laughs it off, saying, "Relax. It's just a joke." A partner who promises change but keeps crossing the same old lines, always with a ready excuse. Sound familiar? At first, you make excuses for them. They're stressed. They didn't mean it. They're just going through a rough patch. But deep inside, a small voice starts whispering, "This isn't a one-time thing. This is who they choose to be, day after day." And here's the hard truth. They're not accidentally messing up. They're strategic, just charming enough to win you back, just remorseful enough to keep you staying, just distracting enough to make you doubt your instincts. It's like standing in the rain, thinking it's a storm, only to look up and see someone holding a hose. Let me tell you about Evelyn, a retired widow in her 72nd, gentle, thoughtful, the kind of woman who sends handwritten thank you notes. Her daughter visited more after her husband passed. At first, it felt like healing. She helped with groceries, drove to appointments, called daily. Evelyn saw it as a blessing. But then came the hints, stories of recent struggles, tales of sacrifices made. Then the requests. "Can you cover my phone bill this month? Mind using your credit card for now?" Each time Evelyn hesitated, the calls stopped. Visits grew colder. Then, days later, warmth returned as if nothing happened. This wasn't care, it was a cycle, a pattern. And the worst part, people like Evelyn, kind, patient, conflict-averse, rarely set boundaries. So the cycle continues, and the emotional toll grows. But here's the turning point. When Evelyn started tracking every request, every shift in behavior, she saw the truth. This wasn't a storm, it was a system. The same is true in your life. When you stop excusing with emotions and start observing behavior data, you move from confusion to clarity. And let's be clear, forgiving endlessly isn't strength, it's surrender. A Stoic doesn't lose peace to someone else's chaos. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can prove me wrong, I'll gladly change, for I seek the truth." But it's not your job to teach truth to those who refuse to see it. Your task is to see the truth when it repeats itself, unapologetic and clear. Some people aren't sorry. They're comfortable with the status quo. They don't need your forgiveness. They want your silence. They want access without change. So what do? Stop arguing with their excuses. Stop debating their intentions. Listen to what their actions have already shown. Behavior is truth. Patterns are proof. And your peace is priceless. Make this clear. Setting boundaries isn't cruel. It's clarity, dignity, and self-respect. But here's the challenge. If you're used to keeping the peace, always yielding, always being the bigger person, saying no feels wrong, you'll think you're the problem. You'll wonder, am I too harsh? What if they're upset? What if I lose them? But here's the truth. If someone leaves because you set healthy boundaries, they were only staying because you didn't. Why is setting boundaries so hard? It often starts early. Maybe you grew up in a family where love came with conditions, where saying no made you the bad guy, where boundaries were seen as selfish, ungrateful, or cold. Now, as an adult, every time you stand up for yourself, it feels like betraying someone else. But you're not betraying them. You're finally choosing not to betray yourself. That's not cruelty, it's healing. Take James, a 42-year-old father of two. Every Sunday, he visited his aging mother out of love and respect. But each dinner, without fail, she commented on his appearance. Gained weight again. You looked better when you got married. Where's the old James? At first, he brushed it off. Then he avoided eye contact. Sunday dinners became a dread, not a joy. One day, he stood up mid-meal and said, "Mom, I come here to spend time with you, not to be insulted. If this continues, I won't join these dinners." His mother was stunned. She cried, called him disrespectful. But the next week, she didn't mention his appearance. She asked about his kids, listened. That's the power of boundaries. They don't always end relationships. Sometimes they start real ones. Stoic wisdom teaches us we can't control others, only ourselves. But that doesn't mean passivity. It means acting with intention when someone shows disrespect. A Stoic doesn't yell, beg, or plot revenge. They close the door, lock it, and walk away with dignity. Peace isn't silence. Peace is about who you allow into your space. Practical boundaries protect your mental health. Here's how they sound in real life. If you yell, "I'll end the conversation." If you're always late, "I'll stop waiting." If you disrespect me in front of others, "I won't pretend it's okay." These aren't ultimatums, they're truths. You're not punishing them, you're stating what you will and won't accept in your life. And here's what you need to hear. Those who love you will adjust. Those who use you will react. But what if I lose them? Maybe. But ask yourself, is it loss? Or is it freedom disguised as pain? If someone only stays by ignoring your boundaries, that's not a relationship. It's an emotional hostage situation. True connection doesn't demand. You shrink yourself. It requires respect, space, and truth. The real fear, the loud guilt, but louder still is your inner voice. I won't abandon myself just to keep others comfortable. No one has the right to treat you however they want and still hold a place in your life. You're not cruel for protecting your worth. You're not cold for valuing your peace. You're not broken for finally saying, enough. Boundaries aren't rejection, they're protection. They're self-respect in action. We all want to believe in the good in others. We want to give second chances. When you love someone, you hope love can fix them. But the Stoic truth is this: there's a thin, dangerous line between support and enabling, between compassion and excusing. Too often, what we call understanding is just fear. Fear of conflict, fear of change, fear of letting go. The trap of silent endurance. You keep forgiving, you keep explaining, you keep taking the hurt and calling it love. But you're shielding them from the natural consequences of their actions. And what happens when someone is shielded from consequences? They don't grow. They don't reflect. They keep repeating, why change when nothing demands it? Imagine an adult son who borrows money constantly but never repays. Forgets your birthday but expects gifts. Yells, but you stay quiet. He's just stressed. You say, he'll mature eventually. You tell yourself he needs support, that he has potential. But years pass, and nothing changes. Now ask, who's the problem? Or is your silence enabling the pattern? It feels like love, but it's not real love. Compassion doesn't mean cleaning up someone's mess in the dark. It's turning on the light and saying, "This behavior can't continue, and I won't protect you from its fallout." But it's hard, isn't it? Because the moment you draw a line, they'll make you feel guilty. They'll accuse you of changing. They'll cry. They'll say, "I thought you loved me." But Stoicism reminds us, love without truth is manipulation. Compassion without clarity breeds chaos. And enabling isn't an act of love, it's fear disguised as kindness. What's the real cost of enabling? It drains your energy, your sleep, your boundaries, your dignity. You walk on eggshells, sacrifice your needs, shrink yourself to keep others comfortable. But worst of all, it robs them of the chance to grow. You're not helping them, you're delaying their reckoning. Ironically, the more you shield them from consequences, the more they resent you, because deep down, they know they're not truly facing life. The Stoic path show real compassion by saying, "You can choose, but so can I." Enabling isn't kindness, it's a slow surrender of yourself. It's not your job to save someone from the pain they create. Your duty is to step aside and let it happen. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give is letting them face themselves without you in the way. Let it unfold. Let them learn. Let consequences speak louder than any words you could say. And let yourself be free. You don't need their apology to let go. You need your own decision. There's a moment in life when you stop waiting for them to understand, to change, to apologize when you know it won't come. And in that moment, something shifts. You realize you don't need their permission to protect your peace. You don't need their validation to walk away. You don't need their understanding to set boundaries. You don't need their approval to be free. The burden of waiting, it's heavy. So many live their lives in emotional limbo, holding their breath, hoping the one who hurt them will finally see. But hope without evidence becomes a cage. While you wait, they move on, crossing boundaries, and you shrink to make room for their comfort. A Stoic would ask, why give your inner peace to someone who took it away in the first place? Take Carl, a quiet, 70-year-old man, kind and gentle, the type who'd offer coffee to neighbors stopping by. His adult son visited more as Carl's health declined. At first, it seemed like help, but it turned into control, deciding who could visit, what Carl could say, how his money was spent, what choices were allowed. Carl didn't want conflict or to lose his son, so he stayed silent for over a year. One day, he told a friend, "I feel like a guest in my own home." He hadn't set boundaries, not from weakness, but because he thought love meant endless endurance. But love without boundaries isn't love, it's silent self-destruction. Carl's story isn't rare, it's yours. Mina. Anyone's who's chosen stress over truth to avoid losing someone they never truly had. Peace isn't something granted, it's something you choose. The Stoic lesson. You don't need a reason to protect your peace. You just need the courage to stop explaining. You don't need to prove someone's toxic. You don't need to list evidence of their behavior. You don't even need them to understand. Because sometimes the strongest response is silence, a closed door, a missed call, a life no longer needing their validation. From guilt to freedom. Will you feel guilty? Yes. Because you've been taught that choosing yourself is selfish, that boundaries make you cold, that peace comes only after everyone else is okay. But ask if they never change. What in you must change to find peace? That answer is your guide. That's the Stoic act of courage, shifting from reaction to liberation. When you stop waiting for them to fix things and start setting your own boundaries, something changes. You stop rehearsing responses in your head. You stop craving closure from people who don't even know what closure is. You stop living in emotional outbursts and start living in deliberate truth. You walk lighter. You breathe deeper. You rediscover who you are without their chaos weighing you down. And that quiet moment of returning to yourself, that's real strength. You don't need their apology. You don't need their permission. You don't need the perfect moment, reason, or words. You need one thing: the courage to choose peace without asking if it's allowed. Let go of waiting. Let go of hope. Let go of them, because your peace isn't up for negotiation. No more. They lied. They disrespected you. They crossed lines again and again. And you stayed. You explained. You gave time, space, and trust. But now you see clearly. Kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Forgiveness without conditions becomes a free pass. Love without self-respect becomes a slow erasure of you. They may never apologize. They may never understand what they did. They may never see the you that broke in silence. And that's okay. When someone asks, don't they deserve another chance? Answer like a Stoic, maybe, but I deserve peace more. If this message resonates, if it stirs something deep within you, this isn't just a video, it's the boundary you're ready to set. Subscribe to channel, where we don't chase noise, but cultivate clarity. Comment below, what boundary are you finally ready to honor? Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's been strong for too long. And remember, kindness isn't weakness, but it also doesn't let chaos rule your table. You've given enough.